Your resume can get you shortlisted. Your soft skills will get you the job. It's your simple marketing template which will decide how people will treat you. As simple as this.
So, what is the best way to present these soft skills as your strength in your resume?
Prime reason why HRs or anybody says the CV should be short and simple is because an HR would not spend more than 10 seconds on the CV in the first go. Typically, HRs are not expected to know everything in detail as much as the employee would know.
Actually, gave us a lot of insight into editing our resume as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you could join us for the session. I am Mansi Marathe, Partnerships and Outreach Coordinator at Eden Foundation.
And I'm Tajri Mehta, Partnerships and Outreach Coordinator at Eden Foundation.
I would like to start by introducing our speaker for today, Mr. Praddeep Khaanapure. Bestseller author, lead mentor, and interview coach, Mr. Praddeep has over 15 years of experience in the training and development industry. He has coached over 10,000 job seekers across all industries and levels in various life skills, including resume building and optimization, team building, and interpersonal skills. Thank you so much for taking out the time from your busy schedule to join us. We're glad to have you on board as a speaker for today. And for our viewers, our session for today is called A Guide to Optimizing Your Resume.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's an equal pleasure.
So I'll start with the questions. And before diving into how we can optimize our resume, could you tell us a bit about what the real purpose of a resume is and why it is so important in today's world?
All right. I'm glad you asked that as the first question. Um, Primarily, let me start off with an example. Now, irrespective of anything that we buy in the market, and I'm sure this you could relate, everyone can relate to that. If you go to a shopping mall, if you go to any place, irrespective of the product, if you see something which is unfamiliar to your eyes or your ears, you would not buy that at the first to go. Um, a lot of times we end up looking at the advertisement or the marketing, and that marketing video constantly plays in our mind, and then when you see it, you end up buying it. uh, Let me give an example. The moment we say in fact we never say toothpaste, we most of the time still end up saying Colgate, right? And that's exactly what a resume does. It's your simple marketing template which will decide how people will treat you. As simple as this. And that's why it's essentially important that you pay utmost importance and attention while drafting one.
Okay, so what are the basic do's and don'ts that one should keep in mind while preparing a resume? For example, what should be the length of your resume, or should it be specifically tailored for the job that you're applying for or not? And what sort of formatting should you use for the resume?
Okay. Now, as we dig dive into how do you build a resume, let's understand the basics about it, why and how the process really works. Now, whenever a hiring happens across organization, across industries, a couple of things goes on. Number one, the HR would get the requirement from the business heads. Typically, HRs are not expected to know everything in detail as much as the employee would know. For example, let's say if you're working in digital marketing, I, as an HR, should know the basic terms like what SEO is, what SEM is, how social media marketing works. These are keywords, right? Apart from that, I may not need to have it. If it's there, it's an advantage. But imagine there are close to about 600 different job profiles, and HR is not expected to know all of them. And business is not expected to sit and source candidate. So ultimately, the responsibility always lies on the HR first. So shortlist the CV and give it to us. We will tell you which one to call for the interview. Now, during that process, what happens is the HR gets the requirement and they get onto the portals or LinkedIn for that matter. Today, LinkedIn is also used extensively, for hiring candidates. And when HR sits on that platform, all that they look at is the keywords first. So there are two ways the entire hiring process works. One is how relevant is the person for the job, and that is figured out through the keywords. And then if the CV has those keywords, then the profile gets shortlisted, and from there the second phase happens, which is then the length of the CV, the format, the language, and all of that stuff. So we'll divide this into two parts. Number one thing, the first to do in that case is know the keyword very well. If you're looking for a job in finance, let's say you're looking for a job into finance and accounting, know the keyword that involves this job. It could be taxations, it could be accounting, it could be valuations, it could be mergers and acquisitions, all of that in that domain. Looking out for a job in web designing, you need to know HTML, you need to know Java, you need to know the web designing, the language, testing, all of that. Looking for a job in digital marketing, SEO, SEM, all of this, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, all of that is essential. So know the keywords, that's number one. But that's not enough. When you look at the key skills there, you have to also see how that is implemented in your day-to-day life. Now there are two sections. One is a fresher, and the second is an experienced professional. For a fresher, what would be important is mentioning the theoretical knowledge. So you may have done a course in digital marketing, right? So what did you learn in that? You may have done a course in financial accountancy or taxations or anything. What did you learn in that? So mentioning that becomes essential. A lot of times, and let me just highlight the specific part, a lot of times we see in education, I have done my SSC, HSC, BCom, and I've done my MBA in finance and HR. That's all. You did MBA for 2 years, post-graduation degree. Obviously, what did you learn in that? So key topics included would be number one, finance. Number two, mergers and acquisition. Number three. Now, these are the keywords that will help the HR to shortlist the candidate. So this is where it goes in. For experienced professionals, how have you used this knowledge in your day-to-day life? So mentioning those into your either core competencies, mentioning that into your job profile will be the second element. And that's what you do there. Talking about the length, now that purely depends on how much of experience you carry, but highly recommended, a CV should not go beyond 2 pages. Now, a lot of times people say that, the CV should be short, it should be 1 pager, 2 pager, but rarely anybody explains why like that. Imagine somebody about 35 years of experience. It's practically impossible for the person to put everything in that CV. And for a fresher, it's again practically impossible to stretch the CV to 2 pages, unless he wants to include all the personal data, my father's name, mother's name, sister's name, my village, my taluka, district, and my passport number, all of that stuff. And this is where people get confused. The prime reason why HRs or anybody says the CV should be short and simple is because an HR would not spend more than 10 seconds on the CV in the first go. And it's as simple as this. I have about 50,000 CVs lying in my inbox, let's say as an HR, and I probably have to just look at 5 or 6 candidates to be called for the, probably the final shortlisting. So I may interview about 50, 60 people. Now, for that 50, 60 people, I have to spend up 50,000 CVs, my time on that. I would just look at, the CVs which attract my eye. And within 10 seconds, if that is not giving me the relevant information that I seek, it's gone. And hence the second do is how do you really structure the CV in the right order? As a fresher, you could use your projects. You could use your internship if you've done somewhere. Anything, even if it's your family business that you worked into, it's a good idea to put that on the CV and let others, understand from it what kind of person you are and what skills do you bring to the table. Does that help?
Yes, definitely. You actually gave us a lot of insight into editing our resume as well.
Yes.
So you mentioned how HR professionals have to, they don't have a lot of time to go through all the resumes that are submitted. So a lot of companies have also been employing screening tools or automated softwares that filter out the required or the best fit candidates. How can students ensure that their profile doesn't get filtered out in this process?
Okay. Wonderful question. Obviously, we are in the AI-driven world and everything is automated. Okay, let me correct the sentence. Most of the things are automated, right? But this is something we're hearing now. If you were to look at the recruitment industry, it's always been that way. It's not new. Naukri, Times Job, Monster, Shine, irrespective of the portal HR's use, it has always followed the same mechanism. So, maybe the AI is new for other, other departments, but for the HR, it's always been there. And that's how they have always shortlisted. As I mentioned, the first process is filtering through the keywords, right? Now, for any person, to ensure that their CV doesn't get ruled out, or it's constantly among the top 5%, there are a few rules that they have to follow. And one of the first one is to understand that you get only 10 seconds window. And if you're not able to create a favorable impression in that 10 seconds window, boom, you're gone. And I've seen so many times, job seekers get upset about market mein job nahi hai. And I have been struggling with this. I've sent my CV to 100 places. Nobody's got a response for me and all of that stuff. What they fail to understand is a quick analysis on a CV would really help them understand. More than 80% of the CVs get rejected during the shortlisting process. And the basic of that is, how do you write the first sentence on the resume? Think of this. Now, if you were to look at any resume for that matter, what is the first few things you see? You see the name, you see the address, the contact details, etc. And then there is a career objective statement. Want to build my career with an esteemed organization of high repute and want to utilize my skills for the benefit of the organization. A beautiful sentence copied from somebody's CV, but whose CV? No idea. Yeah, that's the dilemma we stay in. It doesn't really give any impact as a person you are. You want to get highlighted, you want to make sure that you are amongst the top search candidates, make sure you have a good resume headline. For example, I'll use let's say somebody is a fresher, has done his BTech, and has interest into app development. Let's use that as an element. So the resume headline would sound something like this: BTech fresher, with interest and knowledge in app developments, web developments, and technical development projects, looking for opportunities in the IT domain, right? Or maybe looking for learning and growing opportunities in the IT domain. That's all. As simple as that. It helps me understand as a recruiter, who am I going to be dealing with? It's mentioned I'm a BTech, which talks about my education qualification. It also talks about my interest. What am I really looking for? Right? And then it makes the job easier for the HRs to shortlist. I see a lot of time people ending up writing resume headlines something like this: can join immediately. That's it. Slash. Some other resume headlines are highly motivated, highly motivated person with great communication skills, looking for managing opportunities or looking for management role, right? And think of this: highly motivated, communication skills. This is not something that comes up on the CV. This is something that is expected out of you. What a CV is all about your functional or your technical skills. So if you're good in marketing, talk about it. Maybe I'm a fresher, I could say, BCom fresher or BBA fresher, MBA fresher for that matter, with good knowledge on, current industry trends, including SEO, SEM, and, social media marketing, can work with supervision and produce results as required. That's all. This will give an opportunity for the HR to talk or look at your CV more. Imagine 9 CVs back to back having the same lines, the same objective statement that has been carried for generations. And then there is one CV talks about, okay, I am different. That's it. You've done your job then.
Right. So, what a lot of people tend to do is that we highlight our technical skills or our hard skills on our resumes, right? Our projects or whatever other academic qualifications that we have, and we've also seen that time and again employers have exerted importance on soft skills, say communication skills or leadership. So, what is the best way to present these soft skills as your strength in your resume?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite question. The best way to put a soft skills on the CV is
Yeah.
not to put one.
Okay.
Okay. Now, why do I say this? Yes, you have a very valid point. Employers do seek, all this, skills, soft skills, areas like communication, areas like interdependence on each other, areas like, collaboration and all of that. If I were to answer your question in one simple liner, it sounds like this. Your resume can get you shortlisted. Your soft skills will get you the job. As simple as this, right? All these qualities are checked in the interview. And I'm sure a lot of your audience here will also be surprised. If your CV is shortlisted, you have 90% chances of getting that job. Because the moment a CV is shortlisted, somebody's made up their mind, this candidate looks good to us. Call them for an interview. Why is that candidate getting interviewed now? It's a validation for the decision that I've taken as an HR. So if I'm looking at Tarjani's CV and I'm like, okay, these are the skills. Okay, looks good. Call her for the interview. At the back of the mind, we all have made up the decision that Anna, she is the right candidate for the role. Now she has to sit and prove it. And imagine now she sits there, she gives a fantastic discussion where she displays the skills like, I am somebody who wants to learn. I'm somebody who can be dependent. I'm somebody who likes to work with others. I can learn from a mistake. That's it. You got the job.
Right, that is true actually. Um, so, moving on to my next question.
Mhm.
Cover letter submissions are optional for a lot of applications. Uh, so we end up submitting only our resumes. But is it a good practice to provide hiring managers with a cover letter, or does it not make that much of a difference?
I personally recommend, yes, you should. The reason being, now, obviously, over a period of time, we have seen the cover letter slowly fading away. Cover letters were used as an element while submitting a CV, and this was the pre internet era. And then we had the email, right? And then slowly, people started, in the email, they used to write the same thing that they wrote in the cover letter. And then all of a sudden, the trend changed, and everyone said, okay, you're writing the same thing, let's get rid of it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll send the CV alone. Interestingly, we also have reached an era where people simply send a CV like this: Dear Sir, PFA, tuck. Right. So we have also got rid of that element, and people are too busy to write a letter. How I see this is it's an opportunity for you to create a much stronger impression. Even if you're writing the cover letter and the email, there is no harm in that, but it's highly recommended. Now, what do you really cover in that? Number one, talk a little bit beyond your resume. For students or for freshers, I always recommend talk a little bit about your project, which you may not get an opportunity to explain it in your CV. So, for one of the students that we did, I asked them to write a little bit about the project in terms of what was the project all about, right? What was the end outcome or the end result of that, um, and what was that person's role in it. So the cover letter looked like this: dear, dear HR team, I, let's say Rajni Mehta, would like to apply for the role of, a management trainee in your organization, right? I saw your job posted on Naukri slash Time Job Shine, etc., etc., and I am enclosing my CV for your reference. To give a reference of why I believe I'm a potential candidate for the role, and now begin writing, is that I would like to highlight one of the incident that happened or one of the experiences from my college. So we were working on this particular project where we did this as an overall outcome. We achieved this. And in that, my particular role was this. And this gave me an idea that this is the kind of person I am. I like to take up challenges. I like to work with others. And I'm always open for changes and quick feedbacks. Right? Hence, requesting an opportunity to come and have a discussion with you all where we can mutually discuss how we can benefit each other. Very simple. That's it. And then attach the CV and send it across.
Right, makes sense. Like I was saying, what I've observed from personal experience as well is that a lot of significance is given to work experience in the field of the job that you're applying to. So, for people, especially freshers or first year students who do not have a lot of experience or have very minimal work experience, how do you ensure that your resumes can stand out, and how do you make sure that your resume gets noticed?
Okay. That's a tough one. And I don't know who's spreading this rumor, but it's not necessary that your work experience will have an edge. Otherwise, if that would have been the case, freshers would have never got a job. And yes, there could be areas where like you said, it's your personal experience. So yes, there could be a possibility and a chance that somebody else took the job instead of you. But how do you justify, or how do you come to this conclusion that okay, because they had work experience, they got shortlisted? Interview is a discussion. If you're sitting in that interview room after getting shortlisted by the HR, then definitely there was something else beyond the work experience. I could imagine you just walked into an organization and you say, "Hey, I'm looking for a job," and then they take an interview and said, "You know what? Not not our category. Just leave." But if you're sitting in the interview room and the CV is being shortlisted, it is never right to make any kind of assumptions on why you got rejected, right? Or why somebody else got selected. Does work experience matter? Yes. But I have seen a lot of people with work experience, and typically how I see this is, uh, do you have 10 years of work experience, or do you have 1 year of work experience repeated 10 times? A lot of time people claim that, right? I've got 10 years experience in the industry. And then ask them, when was the last certification you took? That was 8 years back. Okay. When was the last training you attended? That was 5 years back. I don't need training. Okay. When was the last time you went on LinkedIn and actually read the industry trends? I don't have time. Okay. When was the last time you upgraded yourself? No. That's not really an experience. A lot of times freshers beat people with work experience purely based on how they present themselves with the right you know skill set that they possess. And when you say work experience, do you really only look at corporate experience? Now that's unfair also. A work experience could be during summer vacation helping my father in his small store. A work experience could also mean helping my mother with her office project during my vacations. Like during work from home, a lot of times I've seen, and a lot of times uh, our kids are equally involved. Like I have a son which is about 10 years old, and he's equally involved into a lot of things that I do individually. And he's learning a few things, and a few areas he gives me an idea. Now for him, that's a work experience, that something that is contributing. I always advise this to especially freshers. If you have about 1 month, 2 months, 3 months of any experience that you've done with your family, work, or business, use that as a tool for people to know you are reliable. Right? Today the Generation Z that you call, everybody believes it's a little pampered one, and it's unreasonable. But I personally believe it's a little more sensible. Uh, it has got all the exposure that has helped us during our corporate experience in the last 10, 15 years. But the Generation Z is already born with it, and when you're born with something, you are much smarter than that. Yes, people like us would take a little time to adapt to this theory. The ego would not allow us to admit that the next generation is smarter than us, but that's what it is. And they have to take pride in anything and everything that they do. See a way to put that on your CV. Seek guidance from university professors, seek guidance from deans, seek guidance from institutes. If you're doing short term courses somewhere, try and see if you can contribute with the professors or with the lecturers out there and how it can make it better. And that's all. And it's again the same, the tortoise and the rabbit story. If the rabbit is going to be sleeping, the tortoise will surely win the race. Yep.
So rightly said, and like you mentioned, our generation, the way we see things or the way we approach things is much different from how it used to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is.
And because of today's like social media centric world, a lot of networking also happens on, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And I have a few friends who have also secured internships or jobs through such networks or through connecting with people on social media. So do you see this becoming a trend or this becoming a, short way of getting a job or getting a placement in the future?
Okay. Partially agreed, partially disagreement. See, again, I see platforms like LinkedIn or any social media for that matter as a brilliant tool to network and learn from each other. What has LinkedIn done? Let's use as an example here. What has LinkedIn done? LinkedIn has given me an opportunity as an individual to connect with the CEO of any organization that I want to, which 15 years back seemed like a dream. I couldn't pass the manager, forget the HR team. If I were to talk to my own CEO 15 years back in my organization, it seemed impossible. Today, it's pretty much easy. I have so many success stories on LinkedIn, that my own students have shared with me. And one of them, again, it's a classic example of how a job search happens. But this whole thing was not about the job. So I had the student who was a BTech again, an engineer. And in his batch, he was one of the only ones who did not get placed. Right. And it was a little disappointing for him. But, during the time of that 2 or 3 months, what this student did was a little different. He took on LinkedIn and he started reading articles on LinkedIn. He started connecting with the industry leaders. He started getting on those groups, and with no intention of job. His job search continued on Monster and Naukri. He never thought that he will get a job on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, he started looking at what can I do better. So he started contributing through his ideas. For example, on a few of the content, he would just write, "Can you share how this happened?" Now, obviously, engineers, especially, when we talk about engineers, they're a little more creative as compared to others. Of course, others are, but somehow I have seen this in my experience, that engineers have somehow got this little inquisitiveness about knowing everything. Whether it helps them, doesn't help them is secondary. And he constantly got engaged. He was, engaging into conversations, groups, and then he started sharing his ideas, what he thinks, what can be done, this, that, plus, minus. And in one of the groups, he got connected with an industry leader. They exchanged a few conversations here and there, and the person arranged an interview for him. And in less than 3 months, this guy was working in Australia at one of the highest packages that the entire batch could get. And he did not use that to job search. Imagine the situation of this guy going on LinkedIn and posting everywhere, "Hey, I'm looking for a job, please help me." We see that during layoffs. Unfortunately, one of the layoffs news recently happened. I've seen immense posts by people saying, "Hey, I got laid off or I'm looking for a job." Look at COVID, which just happened just about a couple of years. We're still recovering from that. And when this happened, a lot of people used LinkedIn as a platform and just bombarding LinkedIn with saying, "Hey, please have mercy, save me, give me a job." I know that's a situation nobody wants to be in. But guess what? That's not helping either. Because all that people did was commenting for a better reach, or simply liking and sharing, saying, "Hey, please help." That's not how professionals work. The professionals always look at how can I search a job without letting my integrity go for a toss on a platform like this. I have seen a post by somebody saying, "I'm a father of 3 kids. I've got responsibilities. I've got loan to pay. I've been jobless for the last 3 months. Savings are ruined," and all of that stuff. We understand. But the best we could do is we can give you sympathy, right? I had about close to 300 comments on that article, everybody saying, commenting for a better reach. Trust me, the tough time will go away and the sun will shine again. Like idiots, nobody needs your advice. I need a job. But the way the person searching a job was, it's not hilarious, but it was pity. And people don't take the time to look at or introspect a few things. Tools like LinkedIn are a brilliant platform for us to connect with the right kind of people. And the advantage for your generation is that tomorrow one of your VCs would be coming in from LinkedIn. One of your investors is going to be coming from LinkedIn. One of your co-founder is going to come from one of these sites. Right? So use it the right way. LinkedIn provides an optional of going premium, and then you can learn courses. Obviously, these are not really certified courses, but gives you basic knowledge. I want to learn Six Sigma. I just go to LinkedIn Learning and I just search Six Sigma. There you go. I can at least have the basics which will help me understand, do I really want to pursue Six Sigma? Right? So that's how it is. Searching it for a job, not advisable.
Right. Okay. So a lot of people have, I mean, there's a specific, not a trend, but a lot of people take sabbaticals or a career break due to certain personal reasons or whatever other reasons. So should the break be included in a resume? And if so, how can one justify taking a career break?
I love this question. Somehow, it also gives me an opportunity to explain why people are so scared to say the truth on the CV. Uh, a lot of time advices are, if you worked anywhere for 3 months, don't mention that in the CV. Worked less than 6 months, don't mention the CV. Is there a gap? Try to adjust, try to hide, try to put family business, right? Why? Would you like if in your personal relationship somebody starts that relationship with a lie, and then you realize later that, oh my god, this whole relationship started on a lie? Would you like that in your personal life? Right? Then why build a professional life on a lie or hiding something? You are hired for your skill set. And let's understand, the person who's hiring is a human being. The person who's getting hired is a human being. We all have some dark phases in our life. It could be a mother losing her child and not wanting to mention the CV, because what will she say? Yes, I was on a maternity leave, but the maternity never got, you know never it never came out, right? So what should that mother do? Simply say, oh, I just took a break. And imagine deep down how hurtful is that to that mother who's sitting for that interview out there and trying to explain something which is not truth. You were there on a sabbatical, let's say for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, right? And then you were, let's say, on a leave. You took that for about 8 months and you went to the Himalayas and you sat there like a monk. Why not? What did you do during that time is also more important. That's an opportunity for you to talk beyond your work, to explain them how human can you be when you come on the team. Honesty is always the best policy. Uh, and trust me, with my this many years of experience and having interviewed more than 6,000, 7,000 people till date, and having worked with more than 15,000 people in terms of job search, the moment you lie, your body language changes. It's an unsaid truth, and it's very easy to figure out that you're lying or you're saying the truth. Start your relationship on an honest note. Maybe three people will reject you, four, five, six, seven. Somebody will hire you, but the one who will hire you is the best place that you will actually work, learn, and grow. So that's how I see it.
Right. Also, during the pandemic, we've seen online learning and certification platforms like Coursera, edX, and Udemy, and many others gain a lot of traction. And people have listed 30 to 40 certificates on their resumes. So, do these certificates really hold any weight, or is it not as important?
Okay, now depends on why you're doing a certification. If like the way you mentioned, people mentioning 30 CVs, 30 certification on CV, if that's your ultimate goal, you're landing up nowhere. Um, Certification is like, I see certifications, and especially with these organizations like Coursera, Simply Learn, etc. coming up. Uh, I see certification as a good tool which will help you understand whether I really want to invest a big time or not. Unlike before, where your only option was a 2 years MBA program. So you get in the MBA program, and in about a year, you realize, oh no, this is not what I wanted. But now you can't do anything about it. Might as well finish it. Short term certification will help you gain the basics of something. Let's say I want to build a career in digital marketing because everybody's talking about it. But maybe my interest doesn't really lie into digital marketing, but everybody's saying so. Now, instead of me spending about 8 months, 9 months into learning digital marketing and then realizing, oh no, this is not my calling, I was better off in finance. It's a good idea to take a short term course which will help you understand, is this the right thing for me? Okay, you want to go one step further? Take up the course, take up a short term job or an internship somewhere. That will help you to test your waters, to see if this is going to be really helpful or not, right? And that's your investments, less than 6 months overall, but you still have an advantage. And time and again, learning is something that's not limited to courses or certifications or anything. You want to upgrade yourself, keep learning on a day-to-day basis. Whether you add this in your CV or not is secondary. But as long as you're taking certifications to learn something that will add to your skill sets, go for it. And in the CV, you can just mention the one that are relevant to the job you're applying for. So if I have done a, let's say, certification to project management, but I'm applying for a role into, let's say, financial operations, a PMP has got no value there to start with. So I might as well not mention it. But in the interview, I could say, why am I a good candidate? I also have the knowledge in project management, by the way. I can bring that handy here. That's an advantage. Yep.
Okay. So, how should someone looking to make a career switch showcase transferable skills on a resume for a better chance at getting a job or at getting shortlisted?
Okay. So to understand this question, you're saying how can someone highlight the experience or the skill set they bring from a different industry
Different.
and moving to a different industry, right?
Right,
Okay.
right.
This reminds me of the pharma industry. There was a time in the insurance segment when most of the insurance managers were hired from the pharma industry. Now, pharma, as you know, is a little, was a kind of a little slow growing industry. So somebody taking a switch in pharma may take up to 3 or 4 years, 5 years, sometimes 7 years. And insurance that time came in and said, okay, let's hire people who are not from finance. The reason being, we want to sell insurance. And if you are already in finance, you must have already exhausted your contacts. So the person who comes in from pharma will be a fresh breed and will help understand and all that. Applying the same logic, when you're getting hired or when you're looking out for a switch in a different industry altogether, doesn't matter if you don't possess the functional skills, as long as you present the reason why you want to switch. For example, if you say, I want to switch because there is stagnancy in my industry or my domain, right? Then you have no chance of standing there. But if you say, yeah, I see growth opportunities here, and this is really my interest. For example, somebody working 5 years, let's say, into finance, decides to switch into digital marketing, can always say, I can grow in finance also. But the reason I'm taking a switch into digital marketing is because this is where my core interest lies. Somebody taking a switch to IT domain from any other domain, as long as you justify that your jump is for your own personal growth and got nothing to do with how bad the industry is, you have a job. So look at your people skills, and this is where it really matters. Look at your people skills and see how you can relate that to the work you're doing. Yes, challenges would be there in terms of the functionality, but the behavior will still remain the same. So that's how you use it.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our session. Lastly, is there any final piece of advice that you would like to give our viewers in terms of optimizing their resumes?
Yes, couple of things that we look at while doing the CV. Number one, get your core competency in place. Uh, if you are a fresher, look at a few things that you can learn and you can mention that in the CV. If you've got experience, work experience, look at how can you showcase your core competencies. Second, do not hesitate to talk about your achievements, irrespective of how small they are. It could be a very small email appreciation by your client. Make sure it's there in the CV, right? Um, when you talk about a job profile, don't write from a perspective of what activities do you do. Think from a perspective of what contribution do you do, right? A lot of times, again, matching it back to achievements, a lot of times people say Employee of the Month award. What for? People forget to mention that. So now think of this. I was the Employee of the Month because I trained 6,000 people in that month. Okay? This is better than the previous one, isn't it? But now think of this. Employee of the Month because trained 6,000 people in the sales team, and after the training, the performance of them of these employees went from 0.5x to 2.5x. Do I deserve an Employee of the Month award? I definitely do, by all means, right? So it's all about how do you really write your achievements. We tend to forget this over a period of time. Look at your CV from not from perspective of seeking a job. Think of your CV as a marketing tool, and what best could you write there? And it doesn't have to be a paragraph. Of course, we have CVs very specific, but master the art of storytelling on your CV. Every line that you put there should invite a discussion. So the moment you say I bought this transformation, I bought this result, etc., it invites a discussion. And the moment you get in a discussion with somebody, you got that job. So focus on those areas and make sure your CV stands out as different from others, because that's exactly what the 5% category of people who know how to search a job, who know how to build a CV, do that. So if you apply these techniques, if you apply this, you would be one step ahead always. And as a key takeaway, what I would also do is I would share a CV format with Adin Foundation. You all can share it with your viewers and the way you want it. That is your CV sample. It could be used by anybody. It's a universally accepted format by most of the industries. Ensure that you understand the formats, the statements, etc., and basis that, build your CV. And the next time you're searching for a job on places like LinkedIn, know how to market yourself instead of asking somebody, "Bhaiya job hai to batana," right? That really won't help. And once again, team, thank you so much for having me here. It was really a pleasure. And I hope this has been a fruitful and a useful session to your viewers. My apologies if there are areas that remains uncovered, or if there are areas which, may have sound a little rude. Intent was not to be one. But if I've been rude enough, or, somewhere you felt like, no, I didn't like this statement, my apologies for the same.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening session. I'm pretty sure it was very insightful for every one of us. Or speaking on a personal level, I am definitely going to make a few changes in my resume right now.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you. God bless.